Welcome to the deep dive. Today, our mission is really to uncover the biological footprint of trauma.
Yeah, it's fascinating. For such a long time, mental health seemed to focus just, on the mind.
Right, just thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. But the big shift now is realizing that these, traumatic experiences, they leave real, lasting traces, not just mentally, but across our whole system.
Our biology, our immune system, even how our emotions are wired.
Absolutely. It's genuinely a revolution in how we understand mental health. And the scale of this, well, the CDC research really brings it home.
The numbers on adverse childhood experiences are tough to hear. We kind of have to face them, though, don't we, to grasp the scale?
We do.
Yeah.
And they are devastating.
Yeah.
The statistics show 1 in 5 Americans was sexually molested as a child,
1 in 5?
and 1 in 4 was beaten by a parent, beaten badly enough to leave a mark.
Wow.
And then 1 out of every 8 people grew up witnessing their mother being hit, being violently assaulted.
It's staggering. And when you think about where public focus often is, the sources made a really stark point about soldiers versus children.
They did. It's a tragic reality, isn't it? For every soldier serving overseas, the estimate is there are 10 children facing danger right in their own homes.
So the threat isn't out there, it's inside the family, which, for a child developing, must make recovery incredibly complex.
That's exactly the challenge.
Yeah.
So in this deep dive, we want to show you how trauma actually physically rewires the brain.
How memory gets fractured.
Right. And importantly, look at some innovative approaches, these bottom-up interventions that seem to be working where maybe traditional talk therapy or meds haven't been enough.
Okay, let's maybe start with a story. The sources mentioned Tom, the Vietnam vet.
Tom. Yes.
Yeah.
A classic example. On the outside, totally successful, right? Went to college, became a lawyer, had a family.
Looked like he had it all together.
But inside,
Yeah.
he was still fighting the war. He described himself as feeling dead inside, completely numb.
That phrase, dead inside, chilling.
Yeah.
And disconnected from his family.
Totally. Like living behind a glass wall, he said. His heart felt frozen. But then, paradoxically, he'd have these sudden bursts of rage.
Followed by shame, I imagine.
Immense shame. And his ways of coping, of trying to manage that internal storm, they were pretty extreme.
Drinking himself into oblivion, wasn't it? Or the Harley.
Yeah, riding his motorcycle at really dangerous speeds. Just anything to feel something, or maybe to feel nothing just for a moment, to find some calm.
And the triggers could be anything, seemingly small things.
That's the insidious part. The sound of his kids playing, fireworks, even just like the summer heat or certain types of foliage, things that whisked him straight back to Vietnam.
Which brings us right to memory, how trauma messes with our ability to process experiences. What is the difference between a normal memory and a traumatic one?
Well, normal memory, like remembering your last holiday, it's flexible. It changes over time. You integrate it, tell a story about it, beginning, middle, end. The sharp edges, the horror, they tend to fade.
They bleach out, as the source put it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But traumatic memory,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work like that. It doesn't get integrated. It sort of gets stuck.
Perfectly preserved, almost, but fragmented.
Perfectly preserved is a good way to put it, yeah. Even decades later. But not as a story. It's like these broken pieces,
Yeah.
isolated images, sounds, physical sensations, emotions.
Like Tom hearing his men scream at night 10 years on. Just the sound, isolated.
Just a sound, or a smell, or a sudden feeling of panic. It's disorganized. And this fragmentation, it doesn't just mess with memory, it actually impacts imagination.
How so? The Rorschach test showed this, right?
Yeah, the ink blot tests were revealing. You had some veterans, like Bill in the study, who basically projected their trauma onto everything. He saw a blown-up child in an ink blot.
Oh, God, so he's reliving it, seeing it, smelling it, feeling it all over again.
Right there, 10 years later, just trapped in this replay loop. But then there was the other reaction, which is just as concerning.
The ones who saw nothing.
Exactly. They just went blank, looked at the card and said, it's just a bunch of ink.
What does that mean, that blankness?
It's like a loss of mental flexibility, the capacity for imagination, for thinking abstractly. It just shuts down. They're either replaying the old reel or there's just nothing. They can't really engage with the present.
Okay, let's dig into the brain science behind this. The hyperarousal, the shutdown. You mentioned the emotional brain, the older parts, the limbic system.
Yeah, the reptilian brain and the limbic system. Think of it as the brain's smoke detector and basic survival center.
And the thalamus is like the cook, mixing all the sensory input together.
That's a great analogy. The thalamus is supposed to stir all our perceptions, sights, sounds, feelings into a coherent soup, our ongoing experience of me.
So what happens when the trauma alarm goes off? What happens to the recipe?
The recipe gets completely scrambled. Normally, when there's a potential threat, information goes two ways. There's the low road, super fast, straight to the amygdala.
The amygdala being the brain's alarm bell.
Precisely. Instant reaction. Then there's the high road, which is slower, goes up to the frontal cortex, the thinking part, for evaluation.
Okay, so we can assess if it's really a threat.
Right. But in trauma, that high road, it
Yeah.
kind of breaks down. The thalamus gets overwhelmed or bypassed.
And you're left with just the raw fragments, the sights, sounds, sensations.
Exactly. They get encoded as these isolated, dissociated pieces. Time feels like it freezes. The danger feels endless because the part of the brain that says, okay, it's over now, isn't fully online.
And this leads to the body being flooded with stress hormones, adrenaline and the like.
Constantly. Or, well, not constantly, but the system becomes hypersensitive. These hormones are vital for short-term survival, obviously.
Fight or flight.
Right. But in traumatized people, those hormone levels take way longer to come back down to baseline after a stressor.
And they spike much more easily, even with small things.
Disproportionately so, yes. And the cost of that chronic elevation, it's huge. Memory problems, attention deficits, constant irritability, sleep nightmares, it wears the body down.
Which connects this idea of neuroception, right? The body's radar for safety.
Exactly. Neuroception is our unconscious ability to scan our environment and even our internal state for cues of safety or danger. It happens automatically, beneath conscious awareness.
And the vagus nerve is key here, specifically the VVC.
The ventral vagal complex, yes, it's part of the vagus nerve system. Think of the VVC as linked to our social engagement system.
That's when we feel calm, connected, safe enough to smile, make eye contact, relate to others.
That's it. To feel close to someone, emotionally intimate, your defensive systems need to dial down temporarily. You need to feel safe.
But trauma disrupts that system.
It throws it completely out of whack. So people either get stuck in hypervigilance, always on guard, scanning for threats, VVC isn't accessible.
Or they flip into the opposite, the numbing shutdown.
Or they flip into shutdown, yes. That's when the other part of the vagus system, the dorsal vagal complex, or DVC, takes over. It's a much older system.
And the DVC state is like collapsing,
Yeah.
playing dead.
Essentially, yes. Heart rate slows right down. Breathing gets shallow. You might feel disconnected from your body, lose touch with your surroundings. It's the body's last-ditch survival strategy when fight or flight aren't possible. Immobilization.
It sounds biologically devastating, even if it's self-protective in the moment.
It is. The body is physically stuck in this defensive loop, generating all these chaotic symptoms.
So it's really no surprise that traditional psychiatry, using the DSM diagnostic manual, struggled to neatly categorize all this.
Not at all. And, you know, the DSM-V, back in 1980, it actually started out quite modest. The authors warned that its categories weren't precise enough for things like insurance claims or court cases.
That modesty didn't last long, though.
No, it didn't. And it led to real problems, especially trying to understand chronic trauma, particularly in kids who grew up with it.
They were getting all sorts of labels, weren't they? ADHD, bipolar, oppositional defiant.
Multiple, often unrelated diagnoses. Because the system was trying to fit square pegs into round holes. The core issue, ongoing relational terror, wasn't really captured.
So researchers pushed for something new, developmental trauma disorder.
Yes, DTD.
Yeah.
The idea was to capture the consistent pattern they were seeing in these kids. It centered on three main things. First, pervasive problems with regulation, like wild mood swings, inability to calm down.
Okay.
Second, attention and concentration issues, hard to focus, hard to learn. And third, chronic difficulty with their sense of self and their relationships with others.
That makes so much sense. It connects everything.
It does. And it brings us to what recovery really needs to focus on. It's about restoring balance, right, between the rational brain and the emotional brain.
Helping people get back into their window of tolerance where they can function well.
Exactly. And the sources really emphasize that this often requires what they call limbic system therapy. We need to go beyond just talking.
We need these bottom-up approaches you mentioned earlier, working with the body.
Precisely. Interventions that directly target the physiology, the brain circuits, where the trauma is held. Because it is held in the body, the core idea is powerful. You can change your own internal state, your physiology, through means other than just drugs.
Okay, let's talk about some of these. Breathing and yoga seem almost too simple, but the science is there.
It's profound, actually. Think about breathing. When you inhale deeply, You activate the sympathetic nervous system slightly, that's the adrenaline side.
Right, the accelerator.
But when you exhale, especially long and slow, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system via the vagus nerve. That's the brake. It slows the heart rate.
So focusing on the out-breath literally calms your body down.
It's one of the most direct and accessible tools we have for regulating arousal. And the research on yoga is striking.
The study you mentioned, 10 wits.
Yeah, just 10 weeks of regular yoga practice led to significant reductions in PTSD symptoms. And these were patients for whom other treatments, including medications, hadn't worked.
Amazing. What about neurofeedback? That sounds more high-tech.
It is a bit more high-tech. Neurofeedback is basically training your brain waves. You get real-time feedback, like a sound or something visual, when your brain produces more of a desired electrical pattern, like calm alpha waves, and less of the hyper-aroused patterns.
So you're conditioning your brain to be calmer.
In essence, yes. And one specific type, alpha-theta training, has shown real success with chronic combat PTSD.
Why that specific training? What does that twilight state achieve?
Alpha-theta training helps people access that state between waking and sleeping. It's a very receptive state, a state where deep learning can happen. It seems to allow them to process some of those supercharged traumatic images and feelings more safely, reducing their intensity.
Fascinating. Then there's touch and body work. Touch seems fundamental, but often avoided in therapy.
It is fundamental. Touch is probably our most basic tool for calming distress, right, from infancy. But yeah, it's often seen as taboo in traditional therapy settings.
So what's the goal with therapeutic body work for trauma?
The goal is to help patients safely re-inhabit their bodies, to learn to notice sensations without being overwhelmed. And sometimes, trauma involves incomplete physical responses, the urge to run, to push away, to fight back, that got frozen during the event.
So body work can help complete those actions.
In a safe way, yes. It allows the body to finally carry out those suppressed physical impulses. This can bring a profound sense of release and resolution.
And lastly, community seems key too. Communal rhythm theater.
Yes. Trauma is incredibly isolating. It makes you feel cut off, different, out of sync with everyone, even with yourself.
So things like theater or movement groups help reconnect.
They really do. Things like group drumming, dancing, or theater exercises, like mirroring someone else's movements, help people attune to each other physically, viscerally.
To feel that shared rhythm, that connection.
Exactly. It helps people embody emotions safely, find their voice, and realize they aren't alone. It fosters that crucial sense of shared humanity and safety in connection.
So pulling it all together, the path to recovery isn't just about talking through the story. It's acknowledging the trauma is stored physically.
In those heartbreaking and gut-wrenching sensations, as one source put it, the focus shifts, doesn't it? It becomes about helping people manage their internal state, manage their relationships, get out of that constant fight-or-flight mode.
And this isn't just an individual issue. It has huge societal implications.
Massive. The science is clear. Social support isn't a nice-to-have, it's a biological necessity. We need connection to thrive, especially after trauma.
And investing early makes economic sense, too. The James Heckman research.
Absolutely. The Nobel laureate economist found that every $1 invested in good quality early childhood programs saves something like $7 down the road.
$7 in reduced costs for welfare, healthcare, crime.
Exactly. It's a smart investment, not just a moral one.
You know, history shows that big societal leaps often come after collective trauma.
That's true. Think about Social Security emerging from the Great Depression or the GI Bill after World War II, which really built the American middle class.
So we have the knowledge now. We understand the biology, the impact, what works.
We really do. We know enough to see trauma as arguably our most urgent public health issue. The big question now is, will we act on it? Will society make the choice to invest seriously in safety, in connection, in prevention, and healing for everyone?